All right, so channel evaluation. So the effectiveness of each digital marketing channel differs for each business, which makes sense, right? We've talked about that before. So the effectiveness of budget allocation to different channels also varies. One must follow the other. Yet the advantages of each digital channel are often true for a wide range of businesses. So let's have a look at how some of the similarities in there. So the point of emphasizing this is we're trying to generalize here to give you a bit of an overview how it works. You take this as a starting point, and then when you get into your business, you go, well, you know, in the lecture, they said, you know, the email, the cost per exposure was low, but I'm finding the cost per exposure to be very high. Yep, that's right. That might be the case for your business. Other businesses, it might be low. So take this as a general guide and adapt it for your individual circumstances. So I've got this channel, this table here, which came from the textbook. So it's not my work, it's the textbook's work. And we're going to have a look at how these fit together. So email, if a business has an effective method of collecting emails, and we've done this in the email marketing section of the digital marketing course. We learned about good ways to collect emails and permission marketing and stuff like that. So if you could do that well, email marketing can have a very good return on investment. It really comes down to the skill of the digital marketer in that regard. Now, search engine optimization is very difficult to measure the effectiveness of it because of the delayed effects, and you don't know once you do search engine optimization. But if you've got no search engine optimization, then you do it. You might be able to measure a big difference between it. But if you're continually improving it, you might put more time and effort into it. It might be hard to be able to attribute your increasing traffic to search engine optimization. So it's more of a hygiene factor where it's something that you need to do, need to keep up, just to make sure that you've got a presence in the marketplace. So it's difficult to measure, but when successful, can produce very good returns. If you're not doing search engine optimization, when you start doing it, it's when it's most likely to be most effective, right? If you're putting a lot of money into search engine optimization and you've got a few businesses that are vying for the top spots on the search engine results page, the efficiency of that's going to start to diminish. Now, paid search, cost per exposure, cost per mile, is determined by the auction, and you're going to be doing, so it's paid search. So you've got to choose your search phrases, and it really requires the skill of the digital marketer to be able to match the words that you're paying for with the traffic that you want that relate to the products that you sell. Now, we did this in digital marketing as well. We did paid search, and if you can apply all those principles, it can work well. If it gets competitive, if you've got other people paying for those search words, then obviously it gets more expensive, and then the return on investment is going to decrease, right, to get the same result. But at the same time, this is the other thing, you can't just let it go, because then those benefits that you were previously getting that you weren't competing for, now your competitors are competing for them. If you don't hold that spot, you're basically giving it to them, and they're going to have those benefits that you've just given up. So it really depends on the situation that you're in. Now, social ads, the cost per exposure is steadily increasing. So is the targeting ability. So this is a dynamic space here. A lot of research and development goes into social media applications, how to make it better for us as digital marketers to use these applications and get the return on investment that we're after. So things like Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, all these WhatsApp, all these social media companies are all competing with each other to improve the way that we spend money on there, to improve the return on investment on those apps, all right? And it's dynamic, it's changing so fast, and they're kind of at the stage now where they're starting to copy each other a lot. Like, someone will come up with a new idea, oh yeah, it's a cool way of showing, new content and good way to advertise on this platform, and then, soon after, all the other platforms are trying their own little version of doing a similar sort of thing. Once you're aware of it, it's hard not to notice it. Now, social posting, unpaid posting yields poor sales results. So if you are doing digital marketing and they go to you, we want you to do the organic content on our social media sites, don't expect to get good sales results for that, right? Organizational performance isn't going to, explode with success when you're doing this. It's a long burn, it's hard yards, and it's good for loyalty building. So remember on that sales, not sales funnel, but that actual model that we had, the strategic framework model, converting once-off customers to loyal customers. Social posting actually increases brand value and that customer building with the customer relationship building with your target market. All right, so that's the goal of it, and it's very valuable. You just don't see it. All right, so it can be incredibly frustrating, and you'll be posting stuff, and you'll get like 5 likes, and you're like, what's the point? But there is a point, because if you do have customers that are engaging with you, customer engagement's up. That's probably better off measuring those metrics. All right, display ads. Just ad blockers limit return on investment, and now when you go onto like a website, they'll go, can you please turn your ad blocker off, because we rely on advertising revenue to keep this website going. So that kind of works, but not really. So ad blockers have changed this a lot, and most people, even when people that don't have ad blockers, they just ignore display ads. So they're not as effective as and remember, we had a lecture on this as well, and a lot of money goes into display advertising. So think about that. So if they don't get the best ROI, but most of the money's going into them, there's room there for improvement, right? However, retargeting does work well. So these are the customers that have been to your website, looked at your products, and then left without purchasing anything. So they might have done a few conversion metrics on your website. So we track it in Google Analytics. They go, all right, so they went from one page to the other page, and they looked at the product description, they clicked on more information, and they might have even added it to their basket and deleted it, or whatever they've done, right? So they've engaged with it in some way, and then you send display ads to their browsers later on to remind them that your product's still there. That tends to work well, because these customers, remember we talked about demand generation and demand harvesting, they obviously have demand there because they're interested in your product, right? They're thinking about buying it. So then the harvesting then is just getting them over the line. So display ads is good for demand harvesting. All right, let's look at digital tactics now. So conversion rate optimization. So remember, tactics are the things that we do, and the things that we do to achieve objectives. So we're not working out what objectives to get. That's done in strategy. But what we do, the day-to-day things that we do on our way to achieving those objectives. And it comes by practice and training, right? So conversion rate optimization tests different versions of copy for effectiveness. And this tactic is virtually always a worthwhile effort. Now, you guys have learnt conversion rate optimization, where we do A/B testing, things like that. Which version is better? And just because one gets more conversions doesn't mean to say it's better. It needs to be statistically significant, right? Now, mobile applications are difficult because few can be very successful while most are not. For most businesses, I can't see the value in spending all that money in building an application, a mobile app, right? It's cool and it's exciting and it's sexy and everyone wants to try it and stuff like that. But then you're doing it for more of a R&D thing. So don't expect, to have a massive market performance out of that. You're doing it just to try things out, right? Which is nothing wrong with that either. But it's mainly for big companies that do a lot of customer service. So it's very resource intensive to build and code and sort out and develop all the I've been involved in this before, and it's a lot more work than what you might think, trying to sequence how it all goes and mapping the customer journeys through the app. It's just a lot of work, right? And it's the kind of work that you need coders on. So that they cost a lot of money because they've got to be able to write code, and then marketing people, like customer experience people. So these people charge a lot of money, so it's expensive. Now, affiliate marketing uses websites that promote products and provide a link to purchase based on commission. So you've got like an affiliate, so like just say, I'm going to use an example off the top of my head here, like Razer. They sell gaming products like keyboards and mice and stuff like that. So they might have an affiliate one where they've got a website, so just say PC Case Gear, and they're selling the Razer products on their website, right? And then they test them out, try it out, or a review site, something like that, and then they're promoting it, and you buy it here. I've reviewed this product, it's great, buy it through this link, all right? Now, the problem with that is attribution is problematic, because if I'm if someone's doing a review on Razer gaming keyboards and gaming mice and headsets and stuff like that, I'm watching that review probably because I've got an interest in it, and I'm thinking about buying it already anyway. I just want to see what that person has to say about it, right? So if I go through the link, their affiliates, I go to they watch their their review and blah blah blah. Click on their link and buy it through there. Razer is paying a commission for that affiliate, but I would have bought it off their website anyway. So Razer was like, well, we're paying money for our affiliates, but they would have come to our website and buy it anyway. So what's the point? So that's not always the case. Sometimes I'll be like, particularly people that don't know and don't really care. I want to get a new keyboard. I don't really know what to get. This guy says it's great. I trust him. I'm going to get that one, right? So that does work then. Right. Influencer campaigns can be especially successful in some industries, like fashion industries, makeup and stuff like that. However, fake follower accounts are very problematic. And when everything comes back down to how many followers you got, stuff like that, there's incentive there for people to have fake accounts following them. And the impact these campaigns actually have, like they're called influencers, but how much influence are they generating can be difficult to calculate. And if it's difficult to calculate, then you don't really know how much value you're getting out of it. Direct messaging remains quite small. LinkedIn do it a lot. I shouldn't say a lot, they do it. And it's unclear if it's going to become mainstream. In concept, it makes sense because it's a way to communicate directly with your customers. It's got to be good, right? But in practice, how do you do that in a meaningful way? Like, how do you work out who are the people that are prepared to have a conversation, that actually want to have a conversation with you, and without being intrusive or like just annoying people? At the moment, it sort of seems to be still in the annoying end, which is probably why it's not taking off very much. But chatbot technology is enabling automatic and personalised conversations. Things are getting better. It's a fast-moving place, and we'll see what happens in the future. All right, so that's it for channels and tactics. Now, I'll quickly look at resource allocation. So, budgets should be allocated across channels to maximise long-term value. That makes sense, right? Long-term profit maximization can be very difficult and complex. Some investment in a digital channel is likely to deliver a benefit to the business, but we have this idea of law of diminishing returns. So that means just because it was successful at the beginning doesn't mean you put $100 into there and you made $200 back. So return on advertising spend was like 2, which is really good. If you could spend $100 on something and get $200 back, you'd be doing it all day, right? But at some point, you're going to be spending $100 and it's going to be going down to the point where you spend $100, you get $100 back, and then you spend $100, you get $80 back. And you're like, well, what's the point? I'm basically paying them $20 to advertise my product, right? I'm losing $20 every time I do it. So it doesn't make sense. So we need to factor that in. And the way that this works is a little bit complex, but I'm going to try and briefly cover it in this section here. So digital marketers should try to determine the marginal benefit and the marginal cost. Now, you would have learned this in economics, and remember, marketing grew out of economics and a little bit of psychology, so it's really a fusion of economics and psychology. So it works well, especially for rational decision making processes. So like business to business markets where people are making rational decisions to purchase things, it works quite well. However, there are complexities in there. If economics was really good, we wouldn't have marketing basically. So there's other factors that we need to consider into this. For example, if I increase paid search spending by $1, how much extra return will I get? So if you spend, you've got to get to the point where you're spending an extra dollar, you get an extra $1 back. When it gets to that point, that's the profit maximization spot, equilibrium, right? You don't want to spend more than that then, because it starts, the law of diminishing returns is reducing. You don't want to spend less than that because there's still money to be taken at the table. So if you spend, you might go, well, we'll get so close, what's the point? But if I'm spending $1 and getting $1.01 back, I'm still getting a return, right? And you might go, well, I can spend that money better elsewhere. And that's true if you've got limited assets available, so you just don't have the budget to do it. But you want to go allocate your budgets to where the marginal benefit's higher than the marginal cost, and the greater that difference is in a positive way, that's where the most of the money goes. But spending should increase or reduce until the marginal benefit equals the marginal cost. This should not be new for you. This is the principles of economics, and the key part is just measuring that. And that's where the complexity comes in there. So the costs and benefits of marketing spend are going to be dependent on many variables. So in economics, we deal with price and quantity. Quantity as the independent variable. So as we increase production, what happens to price? We don't, in marketing it's all the other way around. It's like, if we increase our price, how much more will we sell? But economics, it's, you probably notice, well, why is production at the bottom of the graph? It's like, well, it comes from a very production-focused type of mentality. Whereas in marketing, we've got a very, customer, like a demand-focused one. Well, what do customers want? What are their needs and wants, all right? So it's flipped around, and we've got all these other variables, such as the skill of the digital marketer. I've said that a few times now. So if you're spending $100, and I'm using $100, right? You could be $5,000. Doesn't really matter. Just $100 because it relates to 100%, right? A lot easier for people to conceptualize. So if you're spending $5,000 and you're really good at digital marketing, we've seen this in the social media simulator, you might be able to get a really good return. Whereas someone else is spending the same money in the same market, getting less of a return. So therefore you go, well, I'm trying to measure my return on advertising spend here, my return on investment. And Kevin said, what's your marginal benefit compared to your marginal cost? Marginal costs are fairly clear. We haven't really got into auctioning yet at this stage with this lecture. But just say, well, I've got this much more money to spend, so I can sort of conceptualize increasing, but the benefit that I get back from that is unclear. And it really depends on, the skill of the marketer, and the market conditions in which we're at. So if you're doing really well and things seem to be stable, but then you have a global financial crisis, or you have a global pandemic or something like that, or interest rates increase, or the access to capital decreases, all these things have an impact then, and you're like, well, it's not just a simple process of spending more and getting more back. You've got all these other variables to factor in as well. But again, just because it's difficult doesn't mean to say that you can't be doing it. And just because it's not 100% exact, you're much better off having a broad idea than no idea. So digital marketers can use optimization software to help with analytics, and this is actually pretty cool. You have to pay for it, of course. But some of them actually plug into Excel. I was checking out those ones. They are so you pay for the software, then it plugs into Excel. So where you put all your data. So imagine you've spent this much on that campaign and you've got this many likes, this many followers, this many conversions, blah, blah, blah. So you're recording all that data as you go along, and then you can put this optimizer software and go, well, if you spend more on Facebook, you're going to get more return from this target market. If you spend more on LinkedIn, you're going to get more from that. So you can play around with your data, right? Now, optimizing to a fine point will require a level of stability within that marketplace, because you're sort of you're trying to predict what's going to happen in the future based on previous performance, right? And that's the best way that we use to predict things. There's a whole, like when we work out probabilities of events happening, we look at what's happened in the past, look at what's changing where we're up to now, and then predict what's going to happen into the future based on what's happened on the past. So the more stable your market is, the more accurate your predictions will be able to be. And also, it's going to require a level of stability and access to sufficient data, big data. The more data you've got, the better you'll be able to analyze, like the more you've got to work with analyzing this, and that's going to help you in your predicting and resource allocation. So that's it for this lecture. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you next time.